My name is Mia Tuan, and I am an associate dean in the graduate school. But maybe more importantly for our purposes today, I've been a faculty member here at the U of O going on 15 years, first in sociology and more recently in the College of Ed. And I was counting last night, I have served on nearly 50 dissertations or theses in my time period here, so lots of theses. Maybe what I'd like to do right now before we start, since it's a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, actually it's smaller than I thought we were going to be, but maybe just turn to somebody near you, just introduce yourself, say what department you're from, and where you are in your writing process. Are you just about to start? Are you already in the midst of it? We'll just kind of warm up the room a little bit, okay? So just introduce yourself to someone nearby. Much better. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for doing that. It felt very good to hear a lively conversation. Okay, so what are we going to do today? My hope in the 2 hours that I have with you is to create a space, a forum for us to talk about what it means to work on a thesis or a dissertation, and more importantly, to do it successfully, to be able to get out of here and move on to the next stages of your life. So what I'm going to be doing today is spending a little bit of time talking about the transition from being a student to being a scholar or an expert. And then the bulk of our time is really going to be spent on this next bullet point, which is the importance of planning well ahead, making wise choices, and then executing efficiently. Okay? You're already planning well ahead by being here, but I'm going to be putting even more emphasis on that. Yeah. Hey, David, is this a mic that's on or just to record?
This is just for recording.
Okay. So what you should know, I feel kind of like Steve Jobs a little bit up here. There were a handful of students who weren't able to attend today, and so they asked if it could be recorded. So this is for them. Okay. Okay. And then the second half of our workshop, we have a special treat. Rehearsals for Life is going to be coming in and doing some performances for you. Rehearsals for Life, for those of you who may not know, is a graduate student theater troupe. They specialize in interactive, kind of scenario-based learning. And I'll tell you, as somebody who's been on lots of these types of committees, the writing is one piece of it. The other piece of it is managing all the relationships that you have to be involved in, both with your advisor and with your committee chair, with the rest of your committee. So the second half of the workshop is going to be kind of playing with different scenarios that you may likely confront and explore ways to respond to it effectively. Okay? Okay, so I just want to kind of speak very briefly about this. And, what is the purpose of graduate school? Why are you all here? And the first point I really want to make is that our goal in any graduate program is to transform you from being students to being experts. Okay? So from people who kind of consume knowledge, read other people's work, to producing your own knowledge and having it out there in amongst your peers and as an expert opinion. Okay? The other thing that graduate school is about is really socializing you to the norms and expectations of your field. Okay? I'm a sociologist, so I pay a lot of attention to things like socialization. But really, make no bones about it, you are being taught how to be an economist, how to be a political scientist, how to be an MBA. You're being trained in your discipline how to do well and kind of know the norms, the culture, the expectations of your fields. Okay? So what is the purpose of a thesis or a dissertation, given what I just said? first and foremost is to demonstrate your mastery of your field. Okay? Do you know those expectations? Do you know the primary theorems, the principles, etc.? The kind of latest, best knowledge of the field. Another purpose of the thesis or dissertation is to produce new knowledge. Okay? Going back to that notion of being an expert. And really it's to hear what you have to say. Okay? What are your contributions? So in my field of sociology, what do I have to contribute to the field of sociology, and in my specific sub-area, the area of racial and ethnic identity development? If I want to go even more specific to that, the experiences of transracial adoptees. It just kind of keeps narrowing down. Okay? And the last point I want to make is that the purpose of a thesis or dissertation is to officially mark your transition from being a student to scholar. When you get that degree, when you get that official stamp of approval from the graduate school, it's saying you're ready to move on. Okay? There are challenges. And I've found this cartoon, and I enjoyed it, this whole notion of what does it mean to kind of scale these chapters, the different sections of a document that you have to write. First is that it's a large and complex project, probably the largest, most complex project that you will have worked on to date. Right? It's not just a 10-pager, it's not just a 15-pager, it's substantially more, and it's asking more of you. And so it requires a different style and pace of working. Especially when I work with undergraduates, you can see there are some students who do their best work the night before, about 10 o'clock, about 24 hours before the paper's due. Other people are calling me or emailing me, asking me questions, the day the assignment's been handed out. A thesis or a dissertation is not going to lend itself well to being written overnight or even a week before it's due. It's the kind of thing that you have to really plot out well ahead and execute each of those pieces in an efficient manner. It's layered as opposed to linear. Okay? I recently finished my third book on transracial adoption, and the part that I always hit this wall, and despite having handled these types of complex projects many times, I still hit that same wall where, I'll write something and I can just tell that it's flat. It doesn't yet have dimension. It doesn't yet feel filled out, and that's where the layering comes in. And when I'm staring at a project for so long, sometimes the hardest thing for me to do is to step back and say, what needs to be brought forward? I wrote these 20 pages. I thought they were fabulous. They don't fit in the larger narrative, so I have to just let them go, right? And I'm committed to those 20 pages. It took me 3 weeks to write them. And it's that layering process of not just beginning to end, it's going back iteratively, adding those layers and making sure that it's all coherent and it fits the story that you're trying to tell. Okay? And that's hard, especially the first time when you've not done it before, to kind of hold lightly to what you've produced, knowing that at the end it may look a bit different than what you thought it was going to look like when you first began the process. It can be all-consuming. I remember when I was working on my dissertation at UCLA, I would wake up in the middle of the night, literally, my poor husband remembers this, I would turn on the light because I would think that I figured out how to write that section that had just been vexing me. I mean, literally, I would do this. And then in the morning, half the times it was gibberish. But then every now and then it really worked. It loosened me up enough because for me, my writing process is, I get really into it, and sometimes I get locked and I get tight as opposed to staying loose. And so apparently in my sleep I get looser, I get lucid, and sometimes it allows for that kind of movement, that's the way to say what I want to say. Okay? But it can kind of be all-consuming in that way. And then last but not least, it's a test, and you can fail. Okay? This is that kind of final hurdle before you're given your PhD, before you're given your title of master's, an MBA, an MA, an MS. Okay? So the stakes they're high. They're not insurmountable, and workshops like this, your mentors, we're here to support you to the best of our abilities. But it is a test, and so there's no pretending that it's not. Okay, so what does it mean to successfully surmount these challenges? I'm going to share with you kind of my wisdom of both having gone through the process and then handled other big projects and then working with both most of my doctoral students and then kind of the things that I've observed being at the graduate school. But it's not the only way to successfully surmount these challenges. So I just want to point out to you that what I share with you today is a way, it's a strategy, but it's not the only strategy or necessarily the one that you need to follow lockstep. Okay? I want you to take what works and then to leave the rest. Okay, so first thing this is pretty much what we're going to focus now, is this importance of choosing wisely, and I'm going to elaborate more into both of these in a few moments. Choose wisely the focus of your research, and choose wisely your advisor and your committee, okay? And then the other part is to execute efficiently, timelines, small manageable tasks, and creating an infrastructure for yourself. Okay? So I see some of you writing. If you want the PDF for this, we'll get it to you, okay? There's a handout sheet that's going around with write your email on it, and we'll just make sure to send it to you. So don't worry about having to catch all these notes. I mostly want you to kind of absorb and see how it fits for you. Okay, so this first piece on choosing wisely your research focus. You want to pick a topic. I mean, presumably you all are kind of starting to narrow in on what that topic is. You want to pick a topic that is going to keep you passionate, keep you up at night, make you want to complete this thing, but is also doable in the time period that you have. Okay? The students who have not done well that I have known over the years are the ones who wanted to write their magnum opus now. A magnum opus that would take them 10 or 15 years is like their life's work. This is not your life's work. This is a piece of your overall life's work, okay? And so it's that kind of delicate balance between the thing that sparks you and keeps you passionate, but you can also, it's realistic and it's pragmatic, okay? You want to pick a topic that fits within those parameters. Keeps you excited, but you can get it done in the time period you have. 2 years, 3 years, whatever your window is. Okay? I cannot underscore that enough. Truly, the students that I have worked with in the past and who have struggled were the ones it turned into 10 years, 11 years, and it's just dragged, and then it didn't get done. The other issue that I think you want to consider is, who do you have to support you? Are you working on an innovative project that nobody in your department has expertise in? That may or may not be a deal breaker, but it's just something to truly consider. So when I was doing my doctoral work, I wanted to do a study of later generation Asian Americans. So my own story is that I'm an immigrant. My family came here when I was very young, so I'm considered 1.5 generation, which means I have no memory of any place other than here, but I'm technically an immigrant. And when I was growing up, I was fascinated with Asian Americans who are 3rd, 4th, 5th generation, because I just thought, the experiences that I'm having right now, would they be better, different, worse, if I understood what the norms and expectations were in this society, if my parents knew what those norms and expectations were? So that's what I chose to write my dissertation on. Did anybody at UCLA have that experience, that specific experience? No. Did anybody even have expertise on Asian American ethnic identity? So it was a true gamble for me to say, I want to do this project, even though I don't have, this mentor who knows exactly about this particular topic. But I decided that it was worth it, because this is what was going to keep me up at night. It was the thing that was going to kind of consume me, which is what I think is needed in order to get these things done. So in the absence of true experts in my field, I went for the next best. I went for people who were widely read, well-connected, and who gave me timely feedback. Okay? So my project was actually a qualitative study, which means I did over 100 interviews. My mentor is a nationally recognized survey-based researcher. On paper, that might seem really odd, but the advantage, the gift that my mentor gave me was he allowed me to be my own scholar. He didn't try to make me a mini version of him. He basically trusted that I had something to say, I had good questions to ask, and it was his job to make sure that I executed them smartly and to give me feedback if he thought I was going in a wrong direction. And that's exactly what he did. And the thing got done. Okay? So I'm not saying if there's nobody in your field, in your department who has your expertise, don't do that project. But just really think thoughtfully about who's going to be there to support you. Is it going to be a fight the whole way? Which sometimes happens. Some of you are going to be in departments where they're not going to be supportive of qualitative research. And you really want to do a qualitative project, just to give you an example. You have to really think hard, is it worth making the case? And fighting for it. And in some cases, the answer will be absolutely. And some cases, you may need to think about it. Okay, this other piece, your advisor. This is a big one. Here's a kind of laundry list of questions to even consider. You know, expertise, who has what I need? As I said, in my case, my mentor did not have that specific expertise, but he was extremely well-read, well-connected, and so even though I didn't have experts at UCLA, he connected me to people at Michigan, at Chicago, at other places who I could then email and kind of beg their generosity of time and giving me some feedback about readings that I had missed, or did I consider these particular explanatory variables, that kind of thing. Who can you work with productively? This is a big one. You may have the nation's top expert in X, but she is really hard to work with, or for whatever reason, you don't click. That's something to truly consider. Okay? Because this is the person who's going to, at the end of the day, fight for you, advocate for you, make the case. That person behind, once you've given your proposal defense and the doors are closed and the committee talks, your advisor is the person who says, he's ready, she's ready. They're the one who's behind the scenes having those conversations. If there is any concern or worry going on, they're shepherding you through the process. So it is really important that you pick an advisor that you trust is going to do that for you. Not somebody who, once the conversation begins, just sits there checking their Palm Pilot, whatever, BlackBerry, and not being that vocal advocate for you. Now, how do you find that out? A couple of ways. You meet with your potential advisors frequently, and you feel them out. You trust your gut. And then you ask other graduate students. What was your experience working with Professor Morgan? Oh, she's fabulous. She gives you timely feedback. She's not so great on doing X, but boy, was she really good at this. You get a full picture of the people that you're kind of checking out. Okay? You also ask other faculty. You can read between the lines. We faculty, we do our best to be professional and to be respectful of each other, but you can kind of read between the lines if there is a colleague who does not have a particularly good reputation. And some of you are going to have good enough relationships with certain faculty that they'll tell you flat out, does not read drafts, does not return emails, will make it very hard for you to complete. I wish I could say that all of my colleagues are fabulous mentors and advisors. They're human. Some of them are great, and some of them leave a little something to be desired. You want to know what you're getting into. Okay? So do your homework. That's that planning ahead. Asking really good questions. Who gets students through with successful outcomes? Again, this is the kind of question that you can ask. You know who else is really good? Graduate coordinators and secretaries. They know better than anybody. Okay? Ask them. Are they responsive? Do they get their students through? Who fulfills their responsibilities? Okay? Who can help me get grants and jobs? So this is where you may have the nation's leading expert in transracial adoption. But she is not particularly a hands-on advisor. Okay? She's not somebody who's going to read every single draft within the week that you've given it to her. She'll get it to you eventually, but it might take a month, might take 6 weeks. But boy, is she well connected. She's so well connected so that at the end of the day, if you produce something that's good, she will make those phone calls to this school or that school or this prospective job, place that you're applying to, and say the right things. Again, something for you to kind of calibrate and calculate, is this a good balance? If you do that, then there's other things that I would encourage you to consider, which is going to be the next slide. And lastly, who will support my journey and my growth? Okay? As a scholar. Okay. So this is the next piece of it, picking the rest of your committee, continuing to kind of choose wisely. I'm a big advocate of the balanced food groups approach, and let me try to explain what I mean by that. I would urge you to pick a committee where not every single person needs to give you the exact same thing. One person may be great with feedback. The other may be really well connected. The other is fabulous on the methodology. And the other is just somebody who you can go into their office and they'll say, oh, you know, it's hard, isn't it? Go for balance. It's true. Sometimes that's what it's going to feel like, or it could feel like. Go for balance. Okay? So when I was talking earlier about the kind of imaginary advisor who's not real good on giving you timely feedback on your drafts, but is so well connected that if she writes you a letter and makes those phone calls, it will make a big difference. Okay. Can you balance that out with another committee member who is good for timely feedback? Right? So you are getting what you need, but maybe not all from the same human being. Right? Get what you need across the board, not necessarily in just the one person, is what I would encourage you to do. Who works well together? If you haven't figured this out by now, you're going to figure it out very soon. Academia is pretty political. Some people get along well together, some people don't. And sometimes that spills over to students. Okay? And in fact, later today, when Rehearsals for Life comes, we're going to play out a scenario that is like this. It is real. I have been on committees. Fortunately, so far, I haven't been the bad-behaving faculty member, but I have certainly seen faculty members who really did not like each other, and they were on the same committee, and it made it very challenging for the student to kind of negotiate between the stuff between these two people. Okay? Just something to think about. And a way to find out about it, again, is ask. Ask your fellow students. Ask that graduate secretary. Who works well together? Where are the dividing lines? Because truly, there are even some faculty, if they're on, they will do their best not to be on same committee. And I will have unnamed departments in mind when I think about this. But there are certain landmines that you need to be very conscious of and learn skill in negotiating. Okay? It's part of what it means to be an academic and to be able to kind of maneuver successfully in this playing field. Okay? And then last is who will be around. We faculty, every 6 years or so, we get to go on a sabbatical. When we're on sabbatical, technically we're not needing to be on committees. Some faculty members, because they are fine citizens, regardless of being on sabbatical or not, they serve on committees. Some don't. You need to ask that. Will you be around next year when I'm getting ready to defend my proposal as well as the dissertation? What kind of feedback are they going to be able to give you? If they're not around, they may be willing to Skype in. They may be willing just to send you email address. Those are the kinds of details that you need to work out in advance before you go into that arrangement with them. The cases where things have gotten funky, where it was not communicated well, what the expectations were. And so I urge you, put it all out and write it on an email. Send it to them so that they know what the expectations are. You know, thank you so much, Dr. Hollander, for agreeing to serve on my committee, especially during your sabbatical year. I understand that you will not be physically present, but that you'll be available by email, and that when I send you, let's pretend that she didn't want to read every single chapter. When I have 4 chapters done, that you'll be willing to review those, and that for my final defense, you will be back on campus. Lay it out. That way there's no fuzziness around what the expectations and what your needs are with that particular committee member. Okay, so moving on to the next bullet point is this issue of executing efficiently. And here I'm really talking about things like timeline, breaking tasks into small, manageable kind of chunks, and then creating an infrastructure to support you to do the work that you need to do. Okay, so here it is. A thesis or a dissertation. You can project whatever you would like onto it. Many strategies, one goal. Okay? So this is what I was trying to say to you earlier. I'm here to share with you my strategy and some of the strategies that I've observed over time, but there are other strategies to get you to this one goal. Okay? And so what I want you to be thinking about right now is building your strategy, building your scaffolding so that you can achieve that one goal. Okay? Some people will say, oh, you need to write 15 minutes or whatever, half an hour every day, write at the same time every single day, give yourself rewards, give yourself a 20-minute break if you've written an hour. You know, there's all these kinds of folk theories, folk strategies for getting the job done. They're all fine, but they may or may not work for you. Okay? So if I were to think about my own creative process, I work best at cafes, but I only work best at cafes for a period of time. So something about the newness of the place works for me. So if I show up at, oh, this is cute, I like their coffee, and oh, I like there's a fireplace, you know, I go there, and it will work for me for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then after a while, I kind of start getting distracted again and kind of doing this, and then I have to find another place. That's me. Okay? My husband is a writer, struggling writer. His strategy is also a cafe, but it's the same cafe, the same time every day. He orders the same ham and cheese croissant at 11:30 every single day, because that kind of routine works for him, to the point of irritating me, because, I mean, our dishwasher broke, and I say, well, can you go? No, I have to write from this to this. That's his routine. Irritates me, but it's his routine. It works for him. So you need to know what your routine is. Okay? Some of you, it may indeed be a 3 hours between the hours of 5 and 8 a.m., or you may be a 12 midnight to 4 a.m. kind of person. Whatever. You need to figure that out. What is your ideal optimal time for creativity? And then milk it for all it's worth. Okay, so let's break down what a thesis or a dissertation actually is comprised of. It varies a little bit depending on your field and discipline, but for the most part, this is kind of the anatomy of a thesis or dissertation, what is expected of you, okay? What this kind of thick document consists of. There's a title page. There's an approval page, an abstract, an acknowledgement page to thank your wonderful spouse, your kids, your parents, your mentors, etc. Table of contents, see, these are all easy, right? These you can whip out, and these could be little small manageable tasks. List of tables, list of figures, and then it gets harder. Then you get into your chapters or your sections, depending on the length of your document. There is a familiar rhythm to all of them. Your intro, your lit review, a methods section of some sort, substantive findings, analysis, and then your conclusion, which is kind of your dismount, right? This more or less is the meat of the thing. Then you got a list of references, and then typically a biographical sketch of you. Okay. This is kind of demystify what you're going to be asked to do. So this notion of breaking tasks into smaller manageable steps, there are certain things, you can do them anytime, right? You just got to do them. So I know that for me, one of the ways that I try to convince myself that I'm being productive when I'm not feeling particularly productive is if the writing that day, the writing's just not happening, you know, nothing creative is really happening, then I just take care of the busy work, right? I can figure out my list of tables. I can format my whatever. I can kind of clean up my references, and I'm going to talk a little about references in a second too. I can do some of these detail things that are just tasks, but it still feels good to say, done, it's done, okay, I can move on to the next thing. So some of this stuff, you know, like I said, for me it was kind of I sprinkle it through the entire writing process. For some of you, it may be that you just want to knock them out and say, all right, if I look at this list, half my list is done. Okay, references. Actually, I take it back. I'm going to go to that later in a different part of this. Another piece of advice kind of folk wisdom that has been passed down from generations to generations of dissertators and thesis writers, is this notion of your timeline and starting at the end. Okay? So in other words, you go backwards. What is the final date that what is the term that you wish to graduate? If you know that, then you have to know when your final date, the date for your final defense is, based on all the schedules that the graduate school posts every single year, which means that 3 weeks before that, you have to get the full draft to your committee, which means that you have to have the final draft to your advisor probably 3 or 4 weeks before that, so that he or she can read it and give you enough feedback to respond to it, so you can get to your committee, which means you got to do this other thing, which means you got to do this other thing. You know, and sometimes it can feel like, oh yeah, there was a topic someplace in the middle of all that. But it is this notion of start with what your ultimate kind of timeline goal is, and then work back. And then that gives you a sense of how much flex you really have to write and what your schedule really is. I'm thinking of a student, a case right now where the student has lots and lots and lots of tables, has done all of the analytical tables, like 60 of them, and wants to graduate this term, but has not really started working on chapters yet. Not ideal. Really not ideal. But this student could pull it off. But it basically means, and this would have started about 2 weeks ago, this particular student I have in mind has about 5 weeks to write all the text that describes those tables. Not ideal. But given the goal that this student has of graduating this term, those are the parameters that they've got to work with. Okay? I hope that's not going to be your case. Stretch it out much more than that. But there are extenuating circumstances for all of us. Okay, any questions so far? Or comments? Yeah, Christy.
Say again, how long before graduation? And I know there's some dates in here, but I'm a little confused about how much time is needed.
Yeah, this is a very important document. I hope you all picked it up when you came in. It's got the schedule. On page 4, it's got the schedule. You can also go to the graduate school's website. It's basically your hard deadlines, okay? When you must turn in certain things in order to graduate by the term that you want to graduate in. The expectation is that you will get to your full committee 3 weeks before your defense. And remember, there's a certain day past which you will not graduate that term, okay? So you need to get to your committee 3 weeks before your defense, the full thing. You can still call it a draft because when you're defending it, they may ask you for revisions. And in most cases, it's going to be minor revisions, which means you have a week, 2 weeks. Fix this table, beef up this particular discussion, clean up this, eliminate that. Minor cleaning. In a few cases, it will be bigger, in which case then it's another defense. But for most of you, it's going to be clean it up. But 3 weeks, which then means you need to communicate well with your advisor. When do you want the full package? Because then that person needs to also have time to evaluate and give you more specific substantive feedback. For my students, I typically will say, and it depends on how many students I have going for a defense in any given term. My hardest term is I had 5 going up the same term. That was very challenging because each of those documents is 150, 200, sometimes more pages. So that means I also have to be very efficient about my time and when I can give feedback and do all that reading. So I will typically ask for a month to as little as 2 weeks, depending on what I've got going on. So it's very good to be able to be in communication of what else is going on in your life so that when would you like this? And that's the nice way to say it. The other way to say it is, when is the very last date that I can get this to you? It's true. And then they'll say, I need it 3 weeks before, or 4 weeks, or whatever. Other questions or comments? Yeah?
For a master's student, when do you think is the reasonable time to start working on your master project?
Did you all hear what she said? So what I heard you say is for a master's student, when would be the optimal time to begin working on your thesis? Is that right?
To start working.
Okay. Do you want me to give you the good professor answer? So the good professor answer is from day one. From the point you even applied to go into the program, ideally you would have already been thinking, I want to specialize on this. The sooner the better, because then that allows you to begin this whole process of refining, clarifying, and breaking into these steps the work that you need to get done to do it. Okay, so that's kind of the official answer. Then there's the real-time answer. Certainly, if you're in a 2-year program, by the summer before your second year, you should be absolutely using that time to do a lot of research about what your topic is going to be. Absolutely, because that's your time to immerse yourself. You've just had a full year. Ideally, you've already started thinking who you would like to work with. You've taken coursework with a range of faculty. Summer is also ideal because some faculty are around where, presumably more relaxed. They presumably would be willing to meet for a cup of coffee or for an office hour for you to be able to approach them and say, so this is what I'm thinking about. I would love for you to be my chair. Okay. Yeah?
At what point do you choose your advisor?
You're saying for masters? Again, there's no hard and fast rule. Some students go into programs either master's or doctoral already knowing who they want to work with, and so from the very beginning it's always been, Jen. Others, you're feeling it out. Once you get a fairly good sense of who you think would be a good fit and would meet those various criteria, it is important to approach them pretty quickly because there's good chance you won't be the only one approaching them. And so here's the other part. Some faculty will have, I can only handle 4 master's students at any given year. And so once they hit their number of 4, or whatever that number is, they're going to turn you down. So you want to get your offer in as quickly as possible. It depends. At the doctoral level, you have to have a formal recognition of your committee that's submitted to us. At the master's level, it is not my understanding that, on our end at least, that there's this kind of formal turning in of a committee. Different programs have different expectations. If I think about sociology, someone in here is from sociology. There's some sociology. Soc does not. Have you gone to the master's already? 3 masters? Or did you?
I'm just starting.
So in SOC, when I was in SOC, which is kind of the department I have most experience with, a master's committee was verbal. It was just, Mia, would you be willing to serve? And absolutely. And that was it. At the graduate school, we are encouraging more of the formal, so it's all kind of documented and stuff, but there's no requirement that makes that happen other than at the doctor. That's a fabulous question. Did you all hear what she asked? So the question was, do committee members expect you to ask lots of questions and kind of be more actively involved in the process of writing the thesis or dissertation, or do they just want the final product? The answer is it depends. And that's a fabulous question to ask a potential committee member. Would you like to be actively involved in my process of creating the thesis or dissertation, or would you prefer something that does at the very end? I just attended a doctoral proposal defense 2 weeks ago, and she was asking all of us, and I'm an inside member, she was asking all of us about how much involvement we wanted to be in the process. That is a lovely and appropriate and great question for us to hear, because then we can all be honest and say, this is a rough year for me. Probably the best that I can do is if you give me chunks of chapters. I don't want to be active. This is literally what I said to her. I don't want to be involved with each single chapter. I want 3 chapters and 3 chapters because her vision was 6. So I'll give you feedback at a midpoint and certainly at the end. But I didn't want to get every little brilliant idea that she had because of everything else that's going on. The external committee member said, I would prefer, since I am an external committee member, I would prefer just to get the whole thing at the very end. That's what she said. So it depends. I have also been on committees where I've said I want chapters every single time for various reasons. It might be because I have a particular affinity with that student and have some expertise that they need on X, or it may be that I have worries, so I want to kind of see it more closely. It could be any of those reasons, and so it's a very perfectly legitimate question to ask them, how involved would you like to be? Yes?
Who is responsible for finding outside?
You all heard that?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Who is responsible for finding an outside committee member?
So if I'm doing some sort of interdisciplinary research, I need multiple outside members. How do I make them inside? Or is it even possible for me to have, say, committee members from 4 different departments and
What program are you in?
landscape architecture?
So the question was, what did you do?
Right?
Twig?
Yes.
So Hui is working on an interdisciplinary project. So does that mean her committee also needs to be interdisciplinary so she can draw on the strengths and expertise from multiple perspectives? Is that right?
Yes.
Great question. So right now, the graduate school, we are the keeper of policies. Some of these policies have been on the books forever. We don't even know why they are what they are, but those are the policies. This year, we are beginning a very extensive review of every single policy. Some of them are great policies, and some of them are just antiquated and they get in your way, and they get faculty members' ways. So one of the biggest and most urgent questions is who can comprise a committee, and who can be considered an inside member versus an outside member. The way it is written right now, it's pretty specific that there is one outside member and the rest are internal. Who can qualify for internal, though, is an interesting thing. If you're in, let's say, a traditional department, econ, it's fairly straightforward. It's the econ faculty. If you are in a program that's interdisciplinary, it gets much more complicated, right? So the graduate school right now is in the process of trying to make that much less complicated because students like you who are in an interdisciplinary learning environment, that's what we want to support. My hope is that we'll get to that particular policy by the end of this term. If that happens, then Sky is now brand new as far as how to create committees, who you might designate the external, who you might designate as internal. The way it is right now, I'd have to see the specifics of landscape architecture to see how they describe it, because landscape architecture is it may be interdisciplinary in approach, but the way in which it's kind of represented in kind of the graduate school, whatever the description is that there is a landscape architecture faculty. So those would be considered your internal members. But I'd have to see how it was designated. So that's a long answer to your question. My quick synopsis of that is stay tuned because how we decide who's in and out is under review as we speak. And specific to your issue, we could talk and I could take a look. Okay. All right, so this next slide really gets to this issue of creating that scaffolding or infrastructure that works the best for you. If I joke about my husband, the infrastructure is a ham and cheese croissant. It's a particular cafe. It's a certain set amount of time that is his designated time, and internet. That's his structure. If he has that, he can get what he needs to get done. He doesn't need a lot of people. I do. I'm somebody who, it's a lonely process writing. I like getting feedback. I like to know that I'm not suffering alone sometimes when it feels like it. So for me, having a social network is pretty important to my creative process. And it may be for some of you too. Social network could be just friends who keep you sane and remind you that you have other things to do other than writing. Or social network could be a dissertation or a thesis writing group. I didn't have that when I was writing my thesis or my dissertation. My final year, I left UCLA and I did a dissertation year in the middle of Iowa at Cornell College. So I lost my network. But that's not the case anymore. You can have your network any place, anywhere, and build it. I guess that's the thing I want to urge you, is that if that's something that is going to support you and facilitate your writing process, then create it. It doesn't have to be here. Tara and I were kind of looking to see, are there, at the U of O, are there any kind of formal, is there any formal way of saying that, Craig and Jen and Amy, that we get this list of students who say, I want to be part of a dissertation writing group, just some group that holds me accountable to writing a chapter or completing the title page and the acknowledgement, whatever kinds of goals that you set up for yourself. To our knowledge, there's nothing like that right now. The graduate school would be willing to do that if that's something that you are interested in. Where it gets tricky is, do you want something that's specific to your own discipline? Then, if that's true, if you only want for sociology, it makes way more sense that it be organized within your department. Let your faculty know, let your DGS, who's the Director of Graduate Studies, know that you would like to be part of a dissertation or a thesis support writing group, that kind of thing. If you're less concerned about having it be kind of within your field and you're willing to have architecture and sociology and econ, then the graduate school can be involved in that. If what you're wanting is just a quick read and that kind of check-in around, I did my work, then that's something that we could certainly help you with. But just think about what's the best way to hold yourselves accountable to doing what you need to do. So if you're somebody who needs other people, find that, build it, or ask for help to help make that. Find your rhythm. That's that kind of notion of, are you a midnight to 4 writer, or are you a whatever? Between the hours of 10 and 2 on every alternate Wednesday, whatever your rhythm is, be clear about what that is, when you are most productive and creative. Manage your stress. This is the big one. It goes back to that notion of it being a test and you can fail. It brings up stuff with you. We're human. No one wants to fail. And so it can bring up your stuff around, I can't do it, it's too much, my committee's out to get me, all sorts of stuff, which may or may not be true. Knowing how to kind of successfully manage those doubts when you have them is going to be a really important survival and coping strategy. And there's resources. We have a fabulous counseling and testing center on campus. I think that sometimes they have dissertation support groups, which isn't to help you with your writing, but to help you with the fact that you're dissertating and that it brings up stuff. So managing your stress is a big one. And then keeping records. This is a big one. And I will talk about it based on not having kept good records as a graduate student. So as I said to you before, I did interviews. I had so much data, and I had a team of undergraduates who helped me conduct my interviews. And so like I said, I went off to Iowa my final year, and they were still out in the field collecting data for me. And so I just had to get me my data. I lost 13 interviews in the mail because my student worker sent them to me in the mail and they got lost. It was so painful. Yeah, so I had learned that lesson the hard way. I lost a big chunk of valuable data because I wasn't smart enough to ask him to do a backup or just figure out some other way than to give the only master that I had to trust it in me. Don't do that. And in fact, you don't have to do that because that was mid-90s, so email and all that was just kind of really starting to become popular, but not as easy as it is today. Back up frequently. Have a good system. Put it on Dropbox, which I've just started doing. Have places where your data is stored in multiple sites. That's one thing. Other thing is, like I was saying earlier about the communication, keep records of your communication. Have a folder that is specific to your advisor, communication with your advisor, or communication with various committee members. Communications with your department about expectations. You want to have a good log of all that. So if there's any weirdness at any given stage, you can say, well, in this email, you said if I got it to you by December 12th, you'd be able to read it to me by December 20th. You have something to be able to kind of go back to. So records are really important. That looks so antiquated. It should just be a cloud, a Dropbox cloud. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a few more questions at this point. You might have or stop. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. So that goes back to the keeping good records. And so again, I'll say if I do not what I did, but what I tell you to do. So I am. So if I were to kind of characterize myself, I am a fairly organized. I get things done. I don't like to wait till the last minute. But for whatever reason, when it comes to keeping my references, I'm horrible. I'll read something and then I'll kind of put it in I'll write the title down and I'll put it in a Word document. And then I'll forget that I put it there, and then I'll do it here, and I'll do it there. And so then I have just made my life so much harder because I have to find them all, or I will kind of start a reference list, and I don't want to write the whole thing, so I'll just write, Bobo 1996. And then 5 months later, I can't remember which one was the Bobo 1996 article. And so then I'm Googling it, and maybe I have just given myself so much unnecessary work because I still do it. Okay? So it's not, I have this weird block about this. And there's just so many smarter ways to do it that I would say, please do it. Because literally turning in the final edits to my last book, the thing that made us 2 weeks late was the references. Because I did it again. I kept having holes and incomplete references, and then sometimes I use this format and sometimes I use other. But it's a human quirk of mine that I cannot seem to get my act together with references. The one good thing that I have learned from that part at least is I keep cheat sheet notes on whatever I read. So the smart thing would be if I just put the whole thing on the top and then had my one pager. Instead, I just kind of write the person's name and then I start summarizing. But there is something very lovely about having a file, either hard copy or electronic, of all the references that I've read. Oh, Bobo, so I can find Bobo and get the nuggets of what Bobo had to say that are relevant for my work. Like I said, if I'm smart, I would add the rest of the reference. So that's just a handy way to access the information, because going back to this whole notion of the length of this project, you may be working on a lit review now, but you're going to be revisiting your lit review again and again and again. And so while Bobo may have totally blown my mind back in January, by November, I can't remember why I like Bobo. I just remember I like it. And so other than rereading Bobo again, it's, oh yeah, he's the one who said, relative deprivation, da 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 da. Got it. So some way to kind of refresh your memory. Yeah?
You mentioned interviews. At some point today, are you going to address the human subjects? I keep hearing that there's some sort of process that I need to go through.
Yeah. I am not planning to speak about it simply because it's fairly complex and specific. And so that is something that the human subjects, I can't remember the acronym for it. We have this whole wing, right, that is responsible for giving you the stamp of approval that you may go forward with the project if it involves human subjects. What we could do is the graduate school could ask human subjects to give a workshop on all the nitty gritty. Okay, so I'm hearing, let's see, heads nod. Okay, so we can certainly do that. For all I know, they may have ongoing workshops, but certainly the graduate school can coordinate ones and get you bagels. Okay? Other questions or comments?
On our timeline here on page 3 and 4,
Yeah.
the wording's a little different. For 2011 and 12, it says last date to upload or completed, etc. And the next year it says last date to deposit.
Yeah. So I believe upload is the proper term.
Okay. They only want hard copies.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm not sure deposit's a weird word, isn't it? Upload. Okay. Other questions? Lynn?
Lynn.
So what I heard Lynn just ask is, how much preparatory kind of research and kind of figuring out the lay of the land, the research lay of the land, should you do before approaching a prospective advisor? So I'm going to speak from my perspective now. I love it when students come to me to kind of check me out to be an advisor, and it's clear they've done their homework. They're not a blank slate. They have a pretty good idea. They may not know exactly how to do it or which slices to do, but it's clear they've thought about this considerably. And whether or not they've done a lot of the reading matters less to me. I want to know how they've started really showing me, as a scholar to be, as an expert to be, that they've thought about the parameters and that they're asking good questions. Okay. For some people, the ability to ask good questions hinges on having been well-read about that particular subfield. Others, they just ask really good questions because that is their nature with this particular topic. So there's no do or don't. It depends on what you need so that when you see a prospective advisor, you can be well-informed, speak confidently, and speak from an inquisitive place to say, this is what I'm thinking I want to do. If I think about one student that I'm working with right now, she knew she wanted to study this kind of broad topic. Okay? She came to graduate school knowing she wanted to study this fairly broad topic. So then she approached me and I started asking her, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And so that was an iterative process between the two of us as she said, I never thought about that. Or, yeah, I thought maybe going this route, but it doesn't fit for what I want to do. So it became this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's lovely. That's for me. There may be some advisors out there who want you to be a blank slate, but I don't think so. I think most want to see you as somebody who's you've done some of the legwork already. Yeah.
Question about the timeline. Can you share the requirement for the last day for completing the dissertation proposal?
Proposal, I believe my answer is going to be no. So the question was, is there a last day for proposal, dissertation proposals?
Is there a window between the proposal and the final
That's a really good question. Proposals are a little less formal than the actual defense, obviously. And so what happens is usually your department may have kind of windows when you have the last day for a proposal, but proposals are looser. So I have served on proposal defenses that were as late as week 9, and it really didn't matter because it's just submitting to us afterwards that the committee has been formally constituted. So I think my answer to you is no, but I can get back to you and check. It's just we don't pay as much attention to the proposal side as we do the dissertation and all the specifics that get to that. So if you would like me, I can check on that.
last year, there is the student he proposed in April, and final defense in June, I think.
That is very unusual.
Yes, very unusual.
Yeah. So what I heard you say is they defended their proposal in April, and then they defended their actual dissertation in June. That is very unusual.
And when the submit to the grade school, they just make this one an exception. Yeah. Probably it is 6 months. I just heard it, but I'm not sure.
It totally depends on the discipline, and so it's hard for me to give you it's 1 year to write your dissertation. Some people take 2, 3, 2 months is a very short window. I'm not aware of rules that say you can't do it. So the notion that they needed an exception, I'd need to read the specifics of the case to see what made it that there needed to be an exception needed to be granted. So I'm not sure how to answer that part. Yeah, but as far as a proposal defense, I can find out for you if you like. Okay, so I'll get your email before you leave. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in a situation where your department's in flux,
Flux, that's a good word. Okay.
where the professors who were on your committee
the committee of record must indeed be the committee that is going to listen to and judge, evaluate your final dissertation, final document. So the answer is yes.
Any advice on, as far as if you're doing like the tenure review process, just putting names, taskings, trying to find that committee member who's the head of your committee, that maybe someone's maybe on next year,
Okay, so what I heard Damon raise was the delicate topic of your committee and what happens if some of them leave, some of them don't get tenure, yeah? And they're your committee, and what do you do in the midst of all that? Is that about right? So the first question that Damon asked was, if the committee changes, so someone leaves the U of O for other pastures, do you need to let people know officially? The answer is absolutely yes, because your committee, we all sign it. When your committee is approved, all committee members get an email from the graduate school that says, yes, I agree to serve on Damon's committee. It's a contract. Okay? So if anybody leaves for reasons that are reasonable, including leaving, that changes the contract and you need to update the contract. That's the first thing. What do you do if you are in the potentially unfortunate circumstance of, do you want to make it any committee member or do you want to make it your advisor?
Well, my advisor is in the tenure review process.
Okay. So what happens if your advisor is up for tenure review and it doesn't end up well? Is that a good way? Potentially. So what happens is when you go up for your review and it doesn't go well, you're given a year afterwards to get another job, to transition. And so the committee member may still serve as your dissertation chair for another year afterwards. Beyond that year, all bets are off. Let's say that faculty member goes to another university. It may be that a special exception needs to be made, which is going to involve the graduate school to allow that person to still be the advisor of record. I'm pleased to say it doesn't happen that often, so it's not like this is a big problem. So it may be that an exception needs to be made, or it may be that you have to find another advisor, which that happens too. But you have the advisor as well as you have a year, which could also be one of these, I better get this thing done while I have the person. Yeah.
I'm returning to academics after working for a while.
Say that again?
I'm returning to academics after working for a while. So for me, some of the more technical aspects of exactly how do you cite a book, how do you cite, a website, a lot of the technical stuff or where to look for information, how exactly do you go about it. Is there some sort of
resource?
Yeah.
So I know that Knight Library offers various workshops. I would go to their website or I would ask the reference librarian on duty about citations, just kind of the nuts and bolts of references. Teach a tutorial on EndNote, which is what I should do. But because EndNote is one of those things that there are APA style, Chicago style, it's all built into this program. All you have to do is develop a good habit from the beginning to use it, and it goes into the software does it for you. And Knight Library offers tutorials like that. Another resource, I'm going to show you a list of resources as well, but the Teaching and Learning Center that is on campus, it's primarily undergraduate focused, but that is something that they're trying to change. And so I believe that they also offer specific workshops about, again, formatting. Kind of, not the content, but it's the formatting. And last question before we take a quick break. Yeah.
I'm interested in the joint degree program we have with the other 6 public universities in Oregon. And so I'm applying here for the PhD program for next year.
right now, it's based on making exceptions to the rule. After this term, we'll see. Because right now we are actually considering a proposal for a joint doctoral degree between Southern Oregon University and the U of O that would not be an exception, but it starts to kind of push the boundaries, shall we say, of who can comprise a committee. And it's up in the grad council, which is one of the bodies that kind of wrestles with these questions of, well, what does it mean to have a U of O doctoral degree if it involves other faculty? So these are kind of the thorny questions of the day. All right, why don't we, I'm going to pause here because I see that our troupe is here. So as I mentioned earlier, Rehearsals for Life is a graduate student interactive theater-based scenario learning wonderful group. And so they're going to help us, why don't you come on down? They're going to help us imagine some situations that you might find yourself in and to ask what might you do. So here's, I like this slide because it makes me laugh. So, what would you do if you were put into certain situations? How might you handle it in a way that would be effective? And it's, oh shoot, my format changed. Starring, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? And lost my format.
And actually, I'm going to ask you all to consolidate, because I think in order for you to hear and see us, because we don't really have a great performing area, if you could move maybe back if you're over here or in the center. So just take a few seconds to move if you would be willing. Thanks.
And are you all going to hear? Or are you going to set up?
You can sit on this. Okay.
Student in counseling psychology. My name is Jessica Theron, and I'm a first-year student in the Master's of Public Administration.
And my name is Genevieve Beecher. I'm a third-year student, working towards my master's in international studies and earning a women and gender studies certificate.
So we'll start with the first scenario, Mia.
Do you want me to give any?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't we?
So we have 3 scenarios to share. First one is called Getting Feedback, and it's the scenario is that a student comes to her advisor's office She's what?
whining with it, and also not taking any, or I think it's setting up maybe a time and not showing up unannounced at a professor's office when smart.
Okay. So I heard you say she's kind of whining a little bit, and she just kind of showed up unannounced. She could have set it up a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It sounds like at the beginning of the process, she didn't really draw on the strengths of her committee. That
She didn't go for the balanced food groups approach.
Yeah, that's right. She's sort of left out in the dark, and doesn't have anything to draw from.
Yeah.
Maybe the expectations weren't mutually understood from the beginning. Like the professor already said that she wasn't an expert in this topic, but she's willing to let her pursue that topic because of her passion for the subject. So perhaps the student forgot about all that and expected more than what was arranged.
Yeah. So expectations got a little fuzzy.
Right.
As the professor said, I'm not an expert. I'm not sure about doing you a favor, but I was going to be a little more hands off than maybe what you were expecting from her. Okay. All right. So now you've done a good job describing kind of why things are going in a direction that they are. If this were you, how would you prepare? How would you move this into a more productive direction?
I would ask the professor that was my advisor if they knew other professors either in this department or another department that might be more helpful for me in terms of my subject area.
Okay. How might you transition? Let's say you walked in hot. She's hot right now, right? How would you kind of cool off the hot in order to be able to say, who else could you go to? Can you give her lines?
Me give her lines.
Or does anybody have a trick? What kind of transition could Jenny use in order to kind of go to this more productive direction?
Take the stairs off the elevator.
What's that?
Take the stairs off the elevator. To cool
That
down.
would, okay. That would be beforehand. So you're right. So there's a lot of pre stuff that could have been done, which is kvetch to your network, walk up this whatever, just burn off some of that energy, the anxious energy. But she walked in hot. So now what? Okay, the acoustics in here suck, because when I was sitting here, I couldn't even hear you. Can you say again?
Just that she could ask her to give, could they verbally give her the feedback that she would give her to acknowledge the fact that the advisor did put some work into it, and then they might turn it into more of a dialogue and more of a these kind of fun by talking about it than just like hearing notes along the way.
Okay. Do you guys want to try that? The strategy she just said? You tell us, do you want her to walk in hot or do you want her to walk in more calm?
I want to see a recovery.
Okay, you want to see it good. Okay.
And could you all hear us? Yeah. Okay, great. What's that?
The acoustics go this way, but not that way.
Yeah.
Well, you're my advisor. I need your feedback on this.
Well, I know, Jenny, that I'm your advisor, but I thought that you had enough passion and fervor, like we talked about at the beginning, to really push you to put in the extra work that this project is going to take.
Okay. You're right. I did have a lot of passion for this project. And can you just explain for me a little bit more about the feedback you did give me? Talk to me a little bit more about, paragraph 2 when you pointed out that I did define it a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that feedback.
Yeah, so basically what
Okay.
I'm saying.
Pause. Okay. Like that? Okay. What else? How else might Jenny get what she wants or what she needs from the situation? She may not get what she wants, but she may get enough of what she needs. Yeah.
I think I would probably just be transparent about my stress. So I would probably take a deep breath and say, this is really hard. And I would just be really honest about it and try and
So would you be willing to step into Jenny's role and try that? Yay! Okay. So where do you want to roll it back from? Did you come in hot?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Oh, hi, Kate. Come on in.
Hey.
Yeah, just
So
a minute. I need to finish the stop. Oh, great. What can I do for you?
I asked you for some feedback, and I was pretty clear that I needed feedback, and what you gave me was not feedback. So I don't really know. You're not giving me anything to work with.
Okay, well,
what am I supposed to do with that?
Kate, when you started this process, I let you know right away that this is not my expertise. But you were so passionate and you had such fervor for this topic that we agreed, as I remember, that you would have to put in some extra work here. So I've given you what feedback I can.
Yeah. So I am passionate about this topic. We did talk a lot about that. But you also, I chose you to be my advisor because you have an area of expertise that I need to draw from. And so my expectation, like we talked about, is that when I give you something and you're going to give me feedback on it, that it has some value.
Whoa.
So I don't really appreciate the way that you're speaking to me right now, and I would really enjoy you taking a deep breath and trying again.
I apologize. My car broke down. And my kid's sick, and I was just really hoping that, when I got your notes back, that it would be done, and that I could just go to publication, and that didn't happen. So,
So it sounds like you're feeling stressed about getting things done on time.
yeah, I am. So I apologize. You're right, and I understand that you are very, very good at your area, and I know that you have some really good things to say. So I guess what I'm asking for is, could you just go into a little more detail, specifically on this comment that you wrote about, that I didn't define this very well?
Sure.
Great. Pause. Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Okay, so how was that? How was that either for Kate or how was that for you all? Did that seem realistic, like something you could pull off if things were going in a direction that didn't feel so good, but you could potentially recover from it? Yeah. I'm seeing nods, but can you verbalize so we know? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I don't care. I like both.
I would never act like that. That's just my opinion. Just because I'm weird with professor relationships. Like, I respect them to a point where I just wouldn't even let them know that that's how I am, that I'm angry or upset. Just because they're helping you out. They're doing a lot by being part of your committee or being your advisors. I probably would take the stairs and keep going until I burned off the heat. That's me though. That's how I deal with stress, and I don't bring that to the table because I think that could taint the relationship and then make it awkward. I try to avoid awkwardness if possible in all settings. So I probably wouldn't do that because I couldn't pull it off and somehow pull it back together like that. That's not my personality. So
Okay. And that's a fine strategy. There's a cost to that strategy though, which is it's all on you.
Yeah.
To manage and keep us feeling comfortable while you contort and aren't comfortable. So I'm just saying I appreciate it, but it comes at a cost, and you're the one who's paying the price when you do that. Okay? Yeah.
Well, I just liked how she recognized that she was getting too overwhelmed with other things in her life, and I think that makes us more human when we're having those really intense conversations. Is to say, okay, wait a minute, these are the other things that are externally affecting where I am, and just being cognizant of that.
Okay.
I think was a good strategy in dialing it back down.
Okay. So from your role as professor, did that work? Did that make a difference?
Yeah, I think if I had actually been in this role as a professor,
When she challenged you and said you didn't give me any feedback
Yeah,
and whatever.
that really pissed me off. And but once I could kind of see, oh, this is what's going on for her, that was helpful.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Can you kind of piggyback on that, like if possible, always meet, or this is I've found works, always meet with your advisor by appointment, because that way you can email them and say these are the things that I want to talk about, and then it gives them a chance to kind of pull it over and you to go in there and not just like storm in and be like I'm so upset about this.
Yeah. That's true. So I'm hearing a lot of prepare in advance, let them know in advance that it's coming. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just wondering about how much we can expect out of a professor. Shouldn't we be appreciative of any small gesture that any professor can make? I'm not sure if you're doing this pro bono way. If you take on, say, 10 students as your advisees, are you doing this out of your free time or out of your overtime, or like I'm just not understanding like. Why is the professor obligated to give so much to a student? And also, if a dissertation is meant to be an individually conceived original work, then shouldn't the student be accountable for everything? And anything they can get out of their committee members shouldn't be extra bonuses.
Woo. All right. So I heard the question being, what are reasonable expectations to have of an advisor? Is that right?
Are they paid to actually advise you on your dissertation? What if it's an outside member who already has tons of work to do?
Okay. So this is one of those gray areas of facultydom where we as faculty know we're expected to advise students. We're expected to have students. It's part of the job. Teaching, research, and service. Teaching is not just teaching to a lecture hall or teaching a graduate seminar. Teaching is also mentoring and advising. How many? There is no set number. So I know many colleagues who have 12 students, and I know colleagues who have 1. No surprise, the one who has 12 students, everyone wants to work with them, and the one who has 1 is the person that everyone goes, pss, 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 avoid at all costs. It's not fair, it's not right, but there is, at this moment in time, no way to be more equitable or to hold faculty who are not particularly good advisors particularly accountable. I'm being honest with you right now. So if I think about one department in particular, truly there is a colleague who has 1 student and others have double digits. So is it your right? Absolutely, it's your right.
What if I'm going to psychology and physiology departments to get external committee members, and are they supposed to advise me from another department?
So again, within your own department, certainly it is absolutely your right. As an external committee member, it's partly this issue of being a good citizen too. So I say yes to most, but I don't say yes to all for varieties of reasons. I don't think it's going to be a good fit. I have too many other students I've got going on. I could even say I never am an outside member. And it's not like there'd be anybody who would ever say, Mia, why aren't you serving as an external community member? We're not set up that way. It's set up to be a good citizen, that this is just what it means to be a colleague and to be somebody who's a member of the U of O academic community. Sometimes you serve on external committees. Most of the time you're going to say yes to your own students in your own field, your own discipline. That's the general golden rule. Treat people well and be a good citizen. The ways in which accountability would be built in is when we come up for tenure and when we come up for promotion, and then there are also other periodic reviews. If a faculty member has no students, it's going to get noticed. What happens to them is a whole nother matter. If they're coming up for tenure, which is the first big hurdle that we go through, if they have served on no committees, that's going to be important and noticed. But no faculty member who's getting ready to go up for tenure would ever do that. The risk is what happens once they get tenure. If they say, well, I don't ever have to work with you again. It doesn't happen often, but I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't ever happen. Okay? When they come up for promotion, whichever whenever they go up for promotion again, we turn in lists. The only reason why I knew I'd worked with nearly 50 is I keep a running list, because when I went up for promotion 2-3 years ago, I had to submit my list of students. So there is this, how many committees have you worked on? You are expected to be able to say, I've worked with 30 students. If you say I've worked with 2 over the last 14 years, that doesn't look good. So it's unusual that it's going to happen. So it is your right to expect faculty to be of service to you. Whether or not a specific individual faculty member will give you what you want or need is a whole other matter. Okay? Yes, Esther.
I have a question.
Louder?
I have a question. In terms of feedback, what, and perhaps maybe tell us this, are students, were you expecting a huge long list of you must do this for every paragraph, or, you know, because that's kind of where I find this kind of disjuncture between a student and a faculty member, and faculty not being clear in terms of, well, when I write AWK, it means that this is an awkward paragraph, or, you know, we need to revise it, or the concept isn't right. So I just wanted to find out what kind of information that the student would expect, like if you put a research proposal, are you expecting them to say, this is excellent, comment on each paragraph? Because then that's, I know I get into this point where I don't know whether I should ask them to make a comment on each paragraph or give me an overall view. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good.
Yeah, that's good. So I heard Esther's question being, what is kind of a reasonable expectation for feedback? How do you negotiate the quantity and the type of feedback with an advisor? Okay, let's focus on advisor as opposed to committee right now. So remember when we went back to the slides and I said choose wisely? This is where that comes into play. Asking your fellow students, do they give good feedback? Do they answer you when you email them? How much feedback? What kind of feedback do they give? This is where you start to find that stuff out. It's also reasonable when you meet with a prospective advisor to say, what's your policy on feedback? Okay. Faculty, we have reputations. We just do. And so there are some faculty that if you do a little bit of research, you'll find out whether or not they are, how much feedback they give. They just say, they only give you negative, but you need a little bit of, great, good job, you know, all that. You can find that stuff out, and you can ask. They may not give it to you, but you can certainly ask that, you know, I need. So for example, I remember when I was working on my master's thesis, I had a new faculty member who came from New York, so he was already tenured, right? But he was a new entity, and so there was no reputation about him other than he was an excellent scholar. I asked him to be the chair of my thesis. And because he had no students yet, I would put something in his mailbox, and the next day he would have responded. But when I pulled it, it was covered in red. I mean, it was painful. I'm not. It was so painful to me because I want a little bit of strokes, you know, nice. But that was not his style. It was rip, slash, this, and I took it personally. It was very hard for me because then I'd go home and I went from, I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing here, why am I in grad school, to then, he's a jerk, you know. He doesn't, and so I went from the stages of you know, grief and stuff. In the end, I'm thankful he did what he did. And here, I'll tell you why, because I had concrete evidence for this. So when I submitted my thesis, I was in a cohort of 30 students. I was the only person who went through on the first round. Everybody else had either 2 weeks of revisions or longer. And so the point is, this process is iterative, it's layers, you're going to revise. The first thing you write is not necessarily going to be the thing you turn in, and the more feedback you get, the better. He gave me the gift of giving me lots of feedback early, okay? And I got through because Roger Waldinger redlined me everywhere, okay? So I had to learn to receive the feedback in the spirit in which he was giving it to me. He wasn't trying to rip me a new one, but it's just not his style to give strokes. And I think eventually I said something like, was there anything you liked? And he said, oh yeah, but I didn't think you needed me to say that. So it's partly translating. right? So it's trying to realize what can you get from this person and kind of calibrating how they give feedback. And then if you have specific needs because it's really hard, you need to think about, is it something you want to ask for, or is it better just to kind of know this person doesn't gush, is not a gusher, and I'm okay with that because my other committee member, I can say, Roger was mean, he didn't say anything nice about it, and they can say, oh, that's okay, this is kind of how he is, but he's a great advisor. You know, you can get your needs met from somebody else. It may not be that particular committee member, okay? Okay, let's, we're running out of time. Let's switch to the scene 2. So scene 2 is misbehaving committee members? Okay, yeah, this is a good one. Okay, so this is one where a student is having a proposal defense, and there's some stuff going on amongst the committee.
Okay, so that concludes my proposal presentation. I'm really excited about this project, and I want to thank my Thesis Advisory Committee for all your support, and I would love to hear some feedback from you all.
Well, I do have one question for you as far as the quantitative analysis behind your research. I feel like you need to maybe increase the number of subjects that you're surveying because there's just not a lot of quantitative data behind your thesis.
You know, I don't really think that she needs any more research subjects because her study is a qualitative case study. So I think the numbers are just enough.
Methodology. If you want funding for your project, so I would highly recommend you add some more numbers behind your project.
Well, you know, I recently published a book and an award winner, by the way. And I also have funding for it too, and I am a qualitative researcher. And in my book, I use less subjects than what she's using in her study.
Well, unless she wants to write books for the rest of her life, then I suggest that she do some more analysis on her test.
But you know, as her chair, and also as the only tenured faculty member, I think that her research methodology is
Freeze. Thank you very much. All right, what's going on? What's going on? We have maybe 10 minutes to talk about this so we can switch to the next one.
Battle.
Yeah.
Battle between.
Yeah. That's right. There's stuff going on between them, and she's caught in the middle. Okay. So if this were you and your defense was being hijacked because of the egos of two committee members, what do you do? Yeah.
Call them on their ego?
Try it. Do you want to either give her lines or come on up?
Well, I can't come on. I would just say, hey, can this be more about my proposal and less about your egos? I mean, we're all people, and they're your committee, and it gets to the point where you have to manage your committee. It's like you're a manager. And so, hey guys, I appreciate the fact that you may not be getting along right now, but you agreed to be on my committee, and I need to have you work together to help me get through this process.
Okay.
And tell me what I need to do to get this process forward.
Okay, so let's pretend that that's just what Christine said. So you're the committee, and Christine just said that to you.
Well, Christine, listen, this is about you. This is definitely about you. I mean, this is about your research methodology here.
Yeah, we just really want to make sure that you get some funding.
There's nothing going on between us. We're good colleagues.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, just,
And they're bringing up very good points, actually, about your funding.
oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Great.
So
I think
pause.
that your research is still stick with.
Okay. Okay. So pause. Did that work? I mean, or what was the effect of naming what was going on and taking control of your committee?
Well, I think the other piece of that too is you've got one saying she's qualitative, you've got one saying she's quantitative, and it's like, okay, I need to know exactly what it is I need to do to make this go through. I can't have one of you saying one and one of you saying the other. So with your, between the two of you, help me here. Decide what I need, and I will make sure I get what you want.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I think you're going to be fighting, and then you don't get approved.
Which happens. Yeah.
I was going to say, at this point, isn't it almost too late? Shouldn't these two professors have shared
is the final presentation, right? This is her defense.
This is her proposal.
Oh, okay. At this point, then you know you have time to take both. I would probably meet with them separately.
Yeah.
Hear what each of them had to say. I would definitely tap into panel number 3 to find out what her take is on this. And
she's untenured. Actually, 2 of them are untenured.
Yeah, that was kind of. But then I would try to because I know that I have to work with these women in the future, and so I think I try to
manage them.
Balance. Yeah, but still have my voice heard for sure.
So would you have kind of named what was going on, which is, wait, can we make this about me? This is my defense, and can we keep the focus on the proposal? Would you do that or not necessarily? Because
that's
not your style?
Yeah.
Okay. So you would try to find some way to manage them, do behind the scenes?
I think I would say, these are really great suggestions you're giving me. Can I meet with you separately, at different times so I can really hear your thoughts, a little more in depth, and then I would, try to make sure that it still held true to my proposal, my project, whatever, my research, but I would try to implement that, especially if I knew that at this beginning stage I was getting heads.
Yeah.
I'd try to cut that off in the end.
Yeah. So one thing I want to point out here is this is a mock scenario, but I assure you this is real.
These are all actually based on real
they're real.
scenarios that either
Somebody
reading
really said that to another professor. I'm the only tenured one here.
Well, versions of this are said, okay? There was one story, fortunately, you could hear all the dirt. There was one story that went around my friend colleagues where a committee member external committee member kind of made a stand about something about the proposal, and then was challenged by others and got pissed and said, well, fine, I'm not on this committee, stormed out the door and slammed it. Okay? It is so inappropriate. It is so outrageous. That poor student was saying, in the middle of a proposal, that is extreme, don't worry that it's going to happen, but it does happen. You have misbehaving committee members sometimes, okay? Okay, let me do her first and then I'll go to you.
One thing I noticed in the first scenario is that the third committee member wasn't speaking. And so maybe as a way to help diffuse the situation, it's well, let's table that for now. Let's get some thoughts on what you're thinking about the proposal. So kind of change the subject, and maybe it'll be better to address the situation individually in their office and come to some kind of compromise in the methodology later on itself. So really utilize that third person to kind of make the subject.
Okay, so please tell me your name. What is it? Kulia. Okay, so Kulia's right. This is your defense. So you are not a passive spectator whose fate is being bludgeoned by this group. You are co-creating this experience. How you do it and how you manage it, though, is where the artistry comes in, right? You can name it and it might work, or it might backfire. So could I hear from committee member number 3? Because this is really important to me, and I want to know from all of you what your opinions are about this. The point is, yes, absolutely be actively involved. If you see something kind of going astray, jump in and try to do something. Change the top, whatever. But this is your proposal defense, and you want it. It's not that you're the captain of the cruise ship, but you certainly are a co-creator of it. You don't have to just be a bystander as it starts going very badly. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I just have a question too. Just from the technical standpoint, going back to what you had asked, is what should we expect from that? Is there a governing body, an ethical body? Because the reality is, even if you do call them on it and then they start working together for you, they can submarine you by trying to ding you and ding you back, which means you don't pass. So there's a situation where you can't even manage it, and if you have to switch committee members, you have to start all over again with turning in their contract, having it go through that process, which means you get dinged.
That's right.
And you're paying for dissertation credits or whatever.
Yes.
No classes. You're paying them to be there.
Yes.
So what ends up happening is ka-ching, you're paying more because of their behavior.
Yep.
So is there something
Yes.
above?
So I heard you ask, what's the recourse? Okay. So yes, there's always recourse. If something like this happened and it was unacceptable, you could let your department head know. You could let your director of graduate studies know that this occurred during your proposal defense and you are very concerned about it and you would like some type of follow-up to it. You can also go file a grievance. Those happen, which follows a very formal and it's a serious process. Nobody wants to have a grievance filed against them, okay? So you try to handle it informally first. So it might be that you let your department head know that you need an advocate, somebody who's equivalent in rank and authority, et cetera, to be able to say, what happened? You know, from what I understand, Kulia's defense got hijacked by you two. And so hopefully the department head or the DGS can talk some sense into them so that they can remember what they're there for, okay? If that doesn't happen, there are always more steps up. A good place to start would always be to then go to the graduate school and say, I have problems and I need advice about my resources that are available to me, okay? Okay, any more comments about this one before we switch to the next one? How else might you manage this? I've heard approaching them individually, kind of intervening, kind of trying to get the third person to participate, to kind of switch the this, that conversation that's going on. Anything else? Yeah.
It seems like the feedback from both of them might actually make the project stronger. And so that you might try to incorporate both of those ideas. And also recognize at that moment that this is really just posturing in public in some sort of ego conflict and just kind of downplay that in public so that you don't make it worse for yourself and then try to deal with it by giving something that both of them want.
Yeah.
And maybe make your project stronger.
That's true. If she can successfully manage them, she may have the best product possible because it'll have both this and that. But then that's about her skill in being able to do that, which is indeed part of your socialization to academia. Yeah, last comment, and then switch.
I was going to say, I might, if she's my advisor and she wants qualitative, I probably want qualitative also going in. That's why she's my advisor. So I might say, like, well, what I'm hearing is that I could do both. But since my expertise, I want to do qualitative, maybe for this one we could go qualitative, or is that what I'm hearing, that we should just stick to qualitative? And then this one would loudmouthly say yes, then we move on before this one to this one. So that you give me an answer, otherwise you're talking to the individual, you're having to do both, or doing what you don't want to do. So you just get it resolved and be done with it.
You could. I mean, again, that would be taking control of your proposal defense in order to kind of get the terms straight. Then probably sending out an email to all of them, everyone's included, say, so just to clarify, my next steps are, okay? You can do that. And that would probably, if you're having challenges here, I would absolutely recommend that you send an email afterwards summarizing the whole agreements so that you have something to be able to touch back on in case this happens again. Because then you can say, well, let's say you're doing your dissertation defense now and this happens again. You could say, so I took your thoughts to heart, but based on my proposal defense and our agreements, this is the direction that I went with it. And here's a copy, okay? Okay, I've got a few more minutes. We've got a third scenario. The third scenario is temptations. We're calling it temptations.
Oh my god! I'm so glad it's Friday! Yeah, okay. I don't want anything to do with academics anymore. Classes left. Oh,
Ready to go out?
me too. Yeah. Hey! I haven't seen you all summer. Yeah, how are you doing? Good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying school, so it's going good. Oh, good. So, what'd you do this summer? I wrote 10 pages of my thesis this summer. Hold on. What? Yeah, I don't even know what my topic is. Are you like written 10 pages? Somebody is an overachiever. I bet the professors love that. Oh yeah. Well, I love them. I mean, they're so inspiring. Yeah. You know? Like, I'm really interested. Yeah, good for you. Good for you. So yeah. But anyway. So
So we're gonna go out and get some.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. Come on with us.
I really can't. I have to work more on my project. I'm sorry.
No.
Thank you. So what is the situation, and how might, if that were you, how might you respond? If you weren't the tempter, if you were being tempted.
I'd give in.
You'd give in. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. I think that actually is your work style. You need to say, hey, I can't go out tonight, but like, what are you all doing tomorrow? Because my time to work is between 4 and 6 every weekday.
Once isn't gonna
Or what?
One time's not gonna kill you. I had like my one night, and my roommates are the ones who peer pressured me, actually, and I was in at me, and the other ones were always like, can't believe you're in on a Friday night. I was like, oh, it's while I'm working, so I will give in to my colleagues versus like going out this Sunday and stuff.
Okay. Maybe I could ask with this group. So is this a regular kind of temptation thing, or no? This is just once in a while?
I think we regularly go out, and we haven't seen her in a while, and we kind of, there's also some cattiness happening. We think she's sort of a stick in the mud, and so, you know, we're not really expecting her to go out, but
You want to make her feel bad?
Yeah.
A little bit, okay.
Because I feel bad because I haven't chosen my topic.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the part too, that we're all in the same program together, we're in the same cohort, and she's like way ahead on her program, and it's like, and she's talking about it a lot. It's making us feel really bad that we haven't started yet.
Yeah.
I think there's something else going on here, and that is the other component of this. I mean, what you're talking about, social networks, right? The other component of college, which is finding colleagues. And this is one way to find colleagues. And really what she could do is lift them up out of what they're doing and say, hey guys, let's form a writing group, let's get together, let's figure out what we're doing and move forward. I mean,
She could be a good example.
Well, it's a good example of finding you need this time to join together, to have colleagues.
Yeah, that's true.
To have those people that will employ you maybe later on.
That's true. That's very true. Okay. I mean, you will be amazed at who comes back around in your life. It's very true. So yeah. Others with this scenario, how might you handle it if you were being tempted? Other than giving in. Yeah.
I feel like I'm often that person, and I would try to find some way to like make a social work party in a way. Like if I'm not seeing my friends because I'm the one who's always in there doing all my shit done, and they are always slacking and I'm feeling guilty about it, then it creates a weird relationship between us. I'd probably say like, I can't tonight, but tomorrow night, why don't we bring beer into our studio or wherever you guys like jointly work, and we can like switch around our projects and do drafts, or if you haven't like picked your topic yet, like write up a one-page thing of what you have so far.
Okay.
Try to like incorporate some fun and actually do your work.
I love it. Balance. Okay, so working and socializing. All right, good. You had your hand up before. Say it louder, last part.
So both groups would have to work on something like not just you, but also you. Just making yourself better about working.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so again, finding balance. I'm hearing you kind of striking a balance, not always just on the work side. Okay. Okay. There's one other thing I guess I want to, because you're making me have flashbacks now. So so I'm reminded, like I said, my cohort, I had a cohort of 30 students. We did not all finish. I'd say half got their PhDs. So that's just to give you a sense again of the socialization is going to work, and for others, it's not going to work. And so part of the, figuring out your path through it is also knowing who do you want to be with, who maybe is not in the same, going for the same thing that you want to go for. I mean, it's trying to think all those things through, because all 4 of these may not make it through. That is also reality of it. So it is finding who would I want to be in a writing group with? Who's not going to flake? Who's going to actually want to, you know, we'll have beer and we'll do this? Who's really going to do both as opposed to, let's have beer? And, oh, I don't want to do that. Or they start getting drunk and they can't even help you with feedback. Right? It's being able, you are learning through all of these experiences about who you are as a graduate student and future scholar expert, and who's your community. Okay, I don't say that to intimidate or scare. It's just that was the truth of my program. Not everybody made it through. So, all right, thank you, ladies. Yay! Give them a big hand. Thank you. All right, well, we have come to the end. I've already mentioned these to you before, but I just wanted to flag them to you again, that you're not alone. You have a lot of people who want to help you. The graduate school is always a good first point of contact. Either the website, call me, call Sandy Morgan, call any of the staff at the graduate school. We will do everything we can to get you the information that you need or to help create the kind of support that you need. Teaching and Learning Center for some of the formatting and some of the writing. University Counseling and Testing Center, it's a great resource. Somebody even told me, I don't know if it was, for those of you who are GTFs, you are entitled to 20 free massages. Did you know that? Oh my God, that is so take advantage of that, especially if your fee's already paying for that. I mean, build in, again, some people, they need rewards. So if I finish chapter 3, I'm going to get myself a massage and whatever. You know, set your rewards if that's what you need. And then Night Library, they are ready and eager to help you both with formatting questions as well as to help you know about special collections, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then check out today's handout because there's lots of really useful information in there as well, okay? All right, final thing is goodie bags. Do we have the name of the cards?
We just need the index cards.
Oh, can you pass your index cards that way? Let's collect them down here. I have 2 goodies. Put your name at this point. Will be enough. Thank you. Yeah, at the very least, your name. Hey, Tara, some of them didn't get a chance to fill out all that stuff. The name is enough at this point. Yeah, at this point, it's just the name. We could put them in here and shuffle them. Oh, I'll start to shuffle. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, fabulous prizes. A drawing must be present to win, kind of thing. Thank you. Hey, Tara, do you want to explain what the fabulous prizes are? Okay. Okay. Any more? Any more? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Final call for index cards. Okay, Tara, our wonderful GTF at the graduate school, who showed up at like 9 o'clock to make sure all the details were prepared, the room is good, that we actually had a keynote that worked. Let's give her, and food, please help me give her a big hand. And she got the fabulous prizes.
I do. All right, so we have 2 things that every graduate student needs: backup storage, yes, and study survival items. Coffee mug, treats, things like that.
Okay. Will you pull?
All right, okay. Lisa Bernshot?
There.
All right.
Ah!
You get Maybe I should read it. And Lisa is in historic preservation, and she's looking at historic structure support of Eugene downtown post office.
Excellent.
All right. Next one. Sarah Bassoni, Bonson, marketing, doctoral student.
Yay!
All right. So.
Oh, are you done? No, yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
So I want to make sure everyone signed the sign-in sheet because we're going to email the PowerPoint slides out to you. As you leave the table, just drop your evaluation form, and there's still food and coffee, so please take some with you as you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend this morning. It's a pleasure. And happy dissertating thesising.